Welcome to part 2 of this small series on how I show how I've made original survival horror music with the Korg Wavestate into the Tascam Model 12. And this video is going to be a mix breakdown. If you've seen the previous video, I wanted to keep that shorter and provide a different video with the mix breakdown. If you haven't watched that video, go back and watch that one first. If you just want to see what's going on in this mix, feel free to continue watching this one. So, this track's called Pale Farmstead. It's one of the recordings I made back in February when I batch recorded all this survival horror music with this type of sound and approach. As you saw in the previous video, how I recorded it, you watched me do it. This is a very particular way of recording sound, and I did it multiple times and got multiple results. So I'm going to break down this mix, the formula for it, and share some insight into what I've learned from doing this over and over. And then I'm going to share a few more mixes. So stay tuned to the end of the video where I do share more variety of how I've done mixes with this, how I've made canvases, non-intrusive atmospheric canvases for this type of game and gameplay. All right, so let's jump in here. So if I look at the mixes here, if I look at the tracks that I've gotten here, when I recorded this sound initially, I recorded 5 images, and I've chosen to use 2 of them. 2 of them blended better than all of them. All of them was too much. The way I recorded this into the Tascam, it could have been the volume. It probably was more over the volume or maybe the mix itself, but all of it collectively was just too much. I felt like I didn't record strong enough, the signal strong enough. Like if I turn the waveform thing off, like you see they're pretty thin, right? Like I do wish I recorded stronger audio. I was monitoring too loud. So that's one of the big takeaways I learned from that. So when I revisit this in the future, I'm going to make sure I improve on that. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't use it. So what I did is I chose 2 of the best elements of this. So if you look at the names here, WS Wavestate, this one I've got highlighted here is mix 1. So it was the stereo mix that I exported out, not the left and right from 11 and 12 from the Tascam. It was just the baked file that it creates for you. I've got that along with the right side of the stereo mix from 11 and 12 from the Tascam. So I've got an actual stereo mix blended with a right side element. And I've actually panned it left and I've panned the mix right. So I've just completely made my own little combination of it. If you look at the other ones that I excluded, 7 and 8 were a real-time second recording I made. So if you watched the previous video where you saw me kind of overdubbing the full recording in real time, that is the mix that resulted. Also, I have track 11, which is the left side of the 11 and 12 created initially. So I know this is kind of complicated, but if I go to my folder here, I'm just going to show you my folder. So, like I said in the previous video, I create a trail of audio that I can choose from. I have a wide range of things that I've created that I can combine. So the first mix that's created is the initial mix of me actually recording the synthesizer. Like that's the first thing that's made, and here's all the audio that resulted from it. Here's the main stereo mix, and here's there's 1, 2, and 3, which is the triple 3 image recording technique I use. 11 and 12 is the left and right stereo that it automatically creates. And then mix 1 is the exported stereo file that I chose to export. So I have everything there. Mix 2 is the real-time automation touch-up. That's what you saw me do in the video there, where I overdubbed, recorded over it in real time. I exported it you get an exported mix. It automatically creates 11 and 12 left and right stereo mix for you. And I had imported that left and right onto tracks 5 and 6. So in the future, I will explore this technique in greater detail, but you can see the trail of audio here. So what we're listening to in this session is mix 3. So I actually did it for a third time. I didn't show it in that video, but I did it a third time. I put some effects on it. Some mainly just reverb, and I just automated it in real time, the dynamic level. Every time it got really loud, I pulled back on the fader. Every time it got softer, I pulled up on the fader, and I got a mix 3. So I actually did this 3 times. So going back to our session here, all that is collectively these 5 tracks in different combinations, mainly the third mix. So to end this long-winded explanation, I've gone with these 2 images and just pan them differently. And that results in, if I just isolate that, this is what we get. So as you can see, I don't have anything on it. I'm not even EQing it at this point because I've done it 3 times. What I've learned is I did all the work in the Tascam. Like I EQ'd it, I recorded it 3 times. So I didn't even need to do anything to it. It collectively is hitting at like -13, which is kind of quiet, right? But there's other elements in this mix that create the fullness. So like I mentioned in the video previous, when you're summing mixing, you're recording multiple things at lower volume, but they're collectively creating a gain loudness. Maybe I'm not explaining it properly, but I think maybe if we dive into this a little deeper, we'll kind of understand it a bit better. So just to recap, I don't have any processing on it. Like I kept it completely as is because I did it all in the Tascam. And what I've learned is the more you process something, the more you degrade it. Every time we process something, we degrade it. So I made that initial recording by performing it in, right? I real-time overdubbed it with volume automation a second time. And then I did a touch-up automation effects EQing a third time. So ultimately, the choice I made when I finished this track was I'm not going to process it any further because it's already degraded enough. It's not as strong on its own. It's pretty weak on its own. It's not technically, it's not the best optimal sound, actually. I didn't want to throw this away. I really believe in sticking with the idea. If it's going to work, make it work. If it sounds like garbage, don't use it. But I liked the character I got from it, and I chose to build around it. So I incorporated it into this mix. So these 2 images from the Wavestate, here's the trick, right? There's 3 elements to this mix. One is the Wavestate, the main sound, the evolving big string texture thing that really does evoke this type of game of Resident Evil remake. That's what this environment, this fall environment, this string swell. I'm just holding that drone down, and it's evolving this string in this big haunted atmosphere, right? That's what I want. Ultimately, I want to re-record that and optimize that. But here's the trick. 3 elements to this mix. I used a sample drone from some pack I got. Like, I don't even know what it was, like a 90s sample thing that I got. And I just did some light processing on that. I did some EQing on it. And I swapped the image left and right. I moved the balance to the left. And I used volume automation on that directly to control that sound. Now, if we isolate that by itself, So what this is doing is it's adding atmosphere, it's adding bass information, it's adding texture. It's got this like little build up here that it kind of, the thing I didn't like about it was how it just cuts off, but it added tension, more tension to the drone, right? So I decided to keep it. I was initially going to scrap it, but then I just said, stick with it because it sounds a little weird, but it's actually just, to me, I realized after listening to it multiple times over a period of time that it just added tension. It was like, oh, it was gone. So it wasn't too jarring, but that's the thing I didn't like, but it collectively with the visuals, if there was effects playing, it just adds tension. So if I combine the two elements, the Wavestate, 2 tracks, and that, we get this. So as we can see here, now it's getting a little louder. The mix is getting a little louder. So it's like it's hitting at -8 now. So collectively, both of them individually, they're not as loud by themselves. But when you start combining them, that's when you start learning how to sound design with your audio, like by combining different things that fit together. So I didn't process any of the Wavestate audio. I did some light processing on this drone. And I used the fader for volume. It's -4. I bled it in, right? I also used some light EQing. I took the high end out. I took the low end out, and I scooped at 200 here just to make room for the Wavestate audio that was filling that spectrum a bit. It fits. I slightly panned it to the left. So panning and volume automation go a long way. That's how I chose to fuse those things together. I tried a few other things. I tried another textured drone. I tried another sample that was too characteristic. It was just too much. I was like, no, I don't want that. It's too standing out on its own. I want it to blend in. So the final trick to this is the third part is the atmosphere. So what I'm doing with this type of music, like as composers, we have a wide range of our tastes and our sounds and our performing elements. I'm trying to work on more melodic music, but this main piece of my entire musical ecosystem is non-intrusive in nature. It's textured, it's atmospheric, it's supporting gameplay and visuals, it's supporting effects. It's not drawing attention to itself melodically. Certain things have more harmonic elements, like there's a bit of harmony in here with the string, but really there's not much going on in that regard. I use real life atmospheres that I've recorded myself and sound designed from other audio sources on YouTube or samples or anything I could find. I make it my own. But that's the trick here and I think what it is, it's emulating tape. Ultimately, I think I want tape texture. I want texture. Because if you hear this by itself, like that by itself is not very atmospheric. It's very bland. But when I add this in, it opens up, right? There is no one way to do anything. I could spend 100 hours trying to make this the best thing possible. But what I've learned is to do it over and over again. So I recorded a ton of this audio. At that time, I batch recorded it. I just went on a binge. And then I made multiple different versions of it. Some worked out better than others. Some were cooler than others. This one was the most basic one. And that's why I've been showing it and sharing it, because there's a formula to this, that doing it repetitively over and over again in different ways, experimenting, finding the formula of it and your way, your style of like, yeah, that's suitable, that's appropriate, it can work. That's the key to progression, I think. So there was 1,000 ways I could have done this. Sure, maybe it's a little weak, but it serves a purpose, and it does work appropriately in the way I want to apply it, right? So it serves the purpose is what I'm trying to say. But that's the trick to this, is recording an element and then filling it out, and then adding your atmosphere, and then you create what I call a canvas that the effects can pop out on, stand out on, feature. It complements the environment that we're in. Like if we look at the video here, we're in a rural European village that it looks like fall. There's broken wood, there's brown, there's stone, there's grays and browns and yellows, there's combat, there's exploration, there's puzzle elements, there's danger, there's threat, there's light, shafts of light coming from the sun through the trees. You could spend forever in that environment, and there's going to be no melodic elements there because it's the environment, right? Also, given the nature of this gameplay, there's exploration and combat. So when you start battling enemies and enemies are coming at you, there's going to be more of a rhythmic drive come in. I haven't done that here. I've just done the environmental thing. That I'll actually, what I do when I test this out is I will actually play the gameplay audio on top of my audio to see what happens. And that's where you start to experiment and learn. So we'll check that out in a few minutes here. In a moment here. Let me just share what this environmental stuff is. So the green tracks are crows at Doran. A few years ago, I lived in North Vancouver here in British Columbia in Canada. North Vancouver is a beautiful place, and there's lots of parks and forests and stuff like that. And I lived near one, so I'd always go there, and on my phone, I would record anything that I would record water or crows. That's actually what is here, is crow sounds from that I recorded from that park that I went to. Crows were going crazy at the time. If you are from Vancouver, you know how crazy the crows go, like ravens and crows and stuff like that. They go nuts. So I captured that just on my phone, and I processed it. I got some reverb, some Valhalla room reverb on it. I've got some gain on it just to give it a little boost. And I've coupled that with a recording I made of just more crows outside. So I actually combined two different recordings of crows. And I put some compression in just to beef it up a bit. Little side story on the game Creatures of War. I did this a lot in the swamp level. I haven't shared that yet, but I actually took these recordings and I pitched them down and made this guttural, haunting crow caw that I mixed into my environmental canvas for the area. I also I put this swamp ambience. You can barely hear it. It's just adding a tiny bit of texture. I used volume to bleed it in. So collectively, this is just going like this. It's just adding texture. So I want to ultimately, I want to record to tape one day. I want to get into that. I want to get into saturation, and this is my budgeted way of doing that. And I did it all over Creatures of War, and it worked out. There's something I've learned that is debatable, that I shouldn't mix my music with these atmospheres. It should be done separately in the game engine. And I want to get to that point. But what I offer is this level of music in different avenues, in different ways, harmonic and melodic and non-intrusive for survival horror. There's all different types of this that I'm exploring and into, and this is just one of them. But I offer this type of caliber of music to the developer on a budget. So in Creatures of War, in the engine, there's only one track at a time, right? So I combined all these elements into one mix. I do like that, but I also know that I shouldn't always do that. So it's debatable. But like I said, you just keep doing one thing after another and learning and combining different things. And like, if I was going to give this to a developer, I'd give them stems, individual solo tracks, this mix I made, a mix with the environment and without the environment mixed in. I'd give them all kinds of options, and I would help them. So I've duplicated it multiple times to loop it into itself. The bottom tracks, the brown tracks, this is called Lagoon Metropolis, buildings, empty atmosphere. I made this for Creatures of War. So there's a area in the game called Lagoon Metropolis, and you go into these big buildings, and I wanted the sound of wind outside and the creaking of the building. There's water underneath, and the building's kind of swaying in this haunted atmosphere. And I use these textures that I've made all the time. I made this. This is a combination of multiple techniques that I'm kind of showcasing and talking about here. But I bleed these into my mixes with volume to create texture. Like, you can barely hear it, right? It's not supposed to be heard. It's supposed to be felt. So collectively, it all goes like this. And collectively, it's not even loud at all. Like, you could probably barely hear it. You can feel it. But in the context to the whole, in context to the entire idea here, this is what it's like. So it's peaking around -12. It's not that loud. The audio I did create with the Wavestate was quite fragile, and I didn't want it to be too loud. This track, the bounce I initially made, if you're kind of following this little series I've been making, I shared the full track and I boosted it up a little bit. But here, like, all I have on the master is a little bit of EQ to dip out 200 and nothing else. I actually didn't do anything to this. I kept it very sparse. It's quieter because you can turn it up a little bit. I mean, for the video, I turned it up a little bit. Like, just in iMovie, I just turned it up a little bit to give it a little bit more presence. Every time we make a track, we learn something. Some of them are louder than others. Some of them don't turn out as loud. We need to do something about it. This one, I kind of compromised and said, hey, just leave it, turn it up a little bit. Like I said, I could spend 100 hours trying to figure out how to optimize this. But then I just ended up making another track that sounded better. And I'll show a few of those too, to kind of illustrate my point here. But I guess ultimately this track here, like, what is the purpose of this? So we gotta ask ourselves, what's the purpose of this track? Okay, first thing, it's 7 minutes long. Like, why is it 7 minutes long? Because, like I said in the previous video, record as much audio as you can, right? Like, record more than you need, because then I have options, right? Like, there's a more sparse area to this track that I could grab if I need it. There's a beginning that swells up really loud. I did this for 7 minutes because in real time, because I wanted to learn and experience it and hear it, right? And then I just did it again and again and again. Some I did for 5 minutes, for 8 minutes. I did it for 38 minutes one time, the first time I found this sound. So in this big environment, let's say, hey, we need a track that's just going to play for a long time and be seamlessly loopable. It's just, you don't even know you're listening to a track that's looping. Okay, 7 minutes. All right. Maybe we can't have that because we need to cut down on processing power and space, and I can't have a 300 megabyte track in the engine, and that's just going to add up with everything else. So I could break this down to 3 minutes and loop that into itself. This track is easily loopable into itself with fade automation. What's the purpose of this track? Well, it's non-intrusive. It's not drawing attention to itself. There's no melodic elements that are going to be jumping out. It's sparse. It's textured. It's haunting. It fits into this bleak atmosphere, this haunting atmosphere with brown and gray and forest. There's crows. It's oppressive. It's suffocating in a way, but it's not suffocating the listener. The argument's fair. This is boring. But the game, collectively, visually, sound effects, atmosphere, it's serving that, right? Like, I don't expect anybody to listen to this on its own. But collectively in the game, it serves a purpose. And I've done it once here, and I've done it dozens of other times. So I guess the main takeaway here is experiment. Find your own way of creating this non-intrusive atmosphere for survival horror games. It'd be cool if there was, when we go into combat, that there was some big thing that happened, or some electronic driving rhythmic haunting thing that happened, and maybe there's some more, there could be anything. But experiment. Like, this is my one thing that I did out of many. Let's close this and look at the other ones now. Let's see what else I did with this. So let me go through my folders here. Pale Farmstead. It's in a project folder. I put it in because I've been exploring it. Here's my folder for this sound. Wavestate C10, survival horror. C10's the patch. I did a lot of it. Here's a bunch of my first recordings that are basically the same as what we just heard. These three here are the different ones, the successful ones. So I recorded this many times, and I was successful in it 4 times. They're the ones I chose to make unique and build arrangements with. Also, I did it with Resident Evil 2 as well. We'll check that out. Let's go to Locked Wood Shed area east of Barn. That's what I called it. Let's look at that. Same thing. I did 3 mixes of it in real time. Let's open that session. Okay, here we are. Getting an overview here, it is basically the same thing as the previous one. I did the same approach. I have 2 tracks from the Tascam, the Wavestate. Actually 3. I have 3. This one was just a little different. So I have 3, and then I have my atmosphere. And that's it. I didn't even include any other external things. If I go to hidden tracks, did I hide anything? Yeah, I did. So I tried a bunch of stuff here, and I chose to just strip it down to what we see here. So I'll explore a little bit of this as well, because I did a lot of editing work, as you can see. But I think ultimately I just chose to exclude that. Or I could maybe make a version with that. We'll check it out in a second. Let's listen to this and see what it is. Okay, so as you can already tell, it is the same audio from before, from Pale Farmstead. It's the same thing. So 2 things. One is I actually recorded this same thing multiple times. So this is probably another take. It's just literally the same thing. The audio, it's the same type of audio, the same strength. It's just a different take. I combined it with atmosphere. I used Icy Atmos Caves, which is a and a wind and cold atmosphere I made for Creatures of War for the ice area. So it's a sustained kind of high pressure wind that's just for an outdoor area, just like we're in Resident Evil 4 there. And I combined it with the crows from Doran that I showed you a little earlier. And I chose to have the third real-time automation recording, 7 and 8. So it's just left and right stereo. I panned them differently, and I used the left side of the stereo bounce that it creates in the Tascam, and I pan that right. So I just did multiple things. If we look at the mixer, I did more processing on this. I did a bunch of EQing, and I just used a little bit of Ozone Imager to just maybe boost it up 4% to make it a little higher in the mix. There's a lot. I also did a bunch of more processing here as well, but it's probably on the tracks that I've hidden. So this, as it is, we'll just listen to it once more. So it's hitting it around -11 collectively, all these elements. As you can see, I've heavily used volume automation to control the sound and blend all three of them and pan them out. So the common thing I've used here is volume and panning to control these sounds, because if I just played them all at full volume, it'd be too much. Let's look at the elements I excluded from this mix. So let's just check it out together, because I don't even remember what I did. It's pretty cool, actually. It's called Dream Chaos. It's a sample. This is just a fragment of that sample. It's like a big drone thing that I heavily processed here. Like, I aggressively EQ'd it to take all the low end out of it, and I just have the high end in it to give that sizzle and that texture. I actually think it's better to leave that in there. But like I said, if I was going to give this to a developer, I'd give them multiple versions of it with all the solo tracks and stems. So there's options, right? It's more interesting with this thing in there, to be honest. This version, this thing, Phantom Workshop, is a piece of a drone from a sample pack from the 90s that I fed into Splitter AI and got this rhythmic texture. Oh no, okay. Let me rephrase that. This is literally the sample from Resident Evil 4, Phantom Workshop. If you know the game, you recognize it. So if you recognize that sound from Resident Evil 4 2005, the GameCube version, that's the sample from the 90s they used in their mix, in their arrangement for one of the outdoor tracks. I was experimenting with it here. I stumbled upon it last year when I was working on Creatures of War, and I went heavily into these sample CDs from the 90s. I got them all offline. I used them very carefully and respectfully. Like, I would not use that flat out as a feature, because I don't want to do that, right? I want to make things my own. We have to make things our own. But we use samples and we process them and make them our own and integrate them into a larger whole that is us. I can't use that on its own. But what does it sound like in here? Well, as you can hear, it is actually adding to the betterment of this thing. It's subtle enough to maybe get away with it, but I haven't processed it at all. Usually I will aggressively EQ or process in ways of pitch shifting is a big thing I've done. Yeah, I think I could just make a video on this entirely about like decisions that could be made here, but maybe you're getting the picture here is there's so many things you can do here, but there's a formula to it. There's your own recorded thing from your synthesizer. There's real atmosphere you can blend in there. And then there's sample elements you can process and tastefully and respectfully integrate into your larger whole of your idea, right? They shouldn't be the main feature, but they should be present, right? In adding character and texture. Should I include the Phantom Workshop in here? Probably not. But I could sub this out for something else. I could use, maybe I'll use Massive X to come up with my own texture. Maybe I'll find another sample. Maybe there's something I made in the past that I can integrate in here. There's so many options, right? But really, like if we just check this out, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's debatable whether it's great, but like it's cool. It's 7 minutes long. It's probably the same audio that I had before, but I did something completely different with it. I did another version. Let's check out the other ones now. These ones are more cool in my opinion. I think these last two are better. Let's check them out. Yet again, this third one, main initial recording mix. I did a second mix where I automated it, and I did a third version of automation that resulted in what we'll hear. What we'll hear right now. I don't know where the session is though. Yeah, as you can see, there's a pattern emerging here of like, okay, multiple mixes, real-time automation touch-ups, then getting into the DAW and using that audio to build your own unique arrangement. Here it is. So this is the third idea, the one that I think is cooler than the other ones. I've used 3 of the images. They're you can see different audio going on here. Like these, I used left and right of the third mix that was made in the Tascam 11 and 12, and then I have a blend of 3 of just one, which is just probably the right side of the Wavestate. So I just thought it added texture or something. This industrial drone fragment is a sample that I created a while ago and I've processed in here. Let's check this out. So as we can already tell, it's much stronger than the other ones we've heard. So this is one of the ones that turned out better. So doing it multiple times and recording multiple takes and all things, multiple different versions, like we get options. Like I'm going to have to do this several times to find the one that works. So this one's a lot more aggressive and louder. It hits pretty hard. It's getting pretty, as you can tell, like pretty hot there. I've done a lot of processing to it. The Tascam audio is EQ'd more. I've taken low end out. The drone, industrial drone, has the high end taken out. I've done about a bunch of EQing, image swapping with the gain plugin in Logic here. Gain, I've like brought the fader down, but brought gain up. Like I just massaged it until, I use my monitors and then I check with headphones and I find what is working, I guess, what I like, or, oh, that feels good. And then I've done some bussing of reverb and looks like some delay with replica. I use replica quite often with these things. I love Sigma Draconis is one of my favorite things. I've got a limiter on the stereo out, and some EQ. I just used my ear and what it felt like. I used transparent mode on this FabFilter Pro L too, and I just am monitoring the loudness. This one's a lot more aggressive and louder. Let's listen to the main bounce I made. So this one's better than the other ones we've heard, for sure. It's louder, it's more aggressive, it swells up and down like I originally wanted it to. This is probably a different take of this when I did that big batch recording. The industrial drone, let's listen to that on its own. That's very cool. I have two of them alternating, bleeding into themselves, and I EQ'd them aggressively to control them because I don't want them to be the main feature. I want them to be integrated into my arrangement, my idea, right? I'm not trying to feature them right out. I bus them, both of them, to a heavily processed bus here. So with these samples that we find and make, especially if they're just like from a sample CD, like from the 90s, which I'm fascinated with. That's a whole other story. We want to process them and make them our own. We don't want to feature them very outright. I EQ'd that. I limited it. I used a voice denoise. So I took this noise out of it surgically, basically. And I used a declipper on it. This is one of my favorite plugins, this RX Declick. If you have some sort of like clicky popness in your audio, this thing will literally take it out. And it has worked wonders for me. I've used it extensively for stuff like this. It works great. So, and I put a ton of reverb on it. If you're hanging in here with this video and you want to know more about this, comment down below and I will make a video where I talk about these techniques and this approach. I hope this video is helping give an insight into the pattern. You see the patterns emerge here. So I hope it's providing insight into this approach for this kind of music, right? As composers, we have to make all types of music. This is just for survival horror and non-intrusive canvases. This is one I really like. I want to do something with this, hopefully. I'll maybe release it with different footage and yeah. So let's listen to the last one here, which is from Resident Evil 2 remake that I set to Resident Evil 2 remake. Same thing. 3 versions, 3 real-time recordings in the Tascam. There's spare versions. There's a ton of audio. There's the balance of it. Let's see if I find the session here. Yeah, here it is. So it looks like all I used, this audio, as you can see, is much stronger than Pale Farmstead. I did this over and over and over again, and I started to get better at it. So that's the one thing I want to leave with you is if you're trying to do this stuff is when you record, when you set up to record, it takes hours and hours to do it. Record multiple times. Keep recording. Don't just do it once. Do it 5 or 6 times, right? Until you get tired, until you're not hearing it anymore. And you cultivate all this audio that you can learn from, you can utilize. Some is better than others, right? Let's take a listen with the footage. So this one's really cool. This is one of my favorite ones, actually. It's got this warehouse ambience that I made for Creatures of War. So it's like this wind texture, like an abandoned warehouse. I use it all the time in things. I really love it. It's adding such a cool characteristic touch to this thing. I've got a limiter on it for some reason. I think just to control it or tighten it up. I'm using left and right from this recording, and I panned them left and right. It's strong. It works. So the more I did it, the better I got at it. That's the thing. When you record, the more you do it, the more you get, the better you get it. But every time we record, every session we do, record more than you actually think you need, and you're probably going to get better every time you do it, right? Every time you play it or take a take or whatever, it's going to be different. Dark Umbra Drone is... It's a sample from a sample library from the 90s. I don't know where, I can't remember, but it is heavily integrating with what I made in the Wavestate. Like, it's actually doing some heavy lifting here, which I'm completely okay with that. I think that's appropriate. I've used volume automation to bring it, I'm bleeding it in, and I've done some EQing on it. And I have a whole bunch of reverb on it with the reverb. Here's a trick with reverb is put an EQ before your reverb when you bus it and just take the low end out of it. So I did that. And then with my own warehouse ambience, it creates this thing. Yet again, a non-intrusive canvas that effects and everything can pop out on. Actually, the thing I didn't do with the other things is I didn't actually play which I'll do for testing, is I'll play the game audio. Mainly in these games, Resident Evil 4 Remake and Resident Evil 2 Remake, the music isn't the forefront. Like, I've listened to that soundtrack, those soundtracks on their own. They're phenomenal, great, amazing soundtracks. I'm so inspired by them. But when you're playing the game, they're not in your face at all. Right? It's atmosphere. It's non-intrusive atmosphere with effects and combat and all that good stuff. Let's check it out really briefly here. Now it sounds pretty good. Like, right? Like I put this one video out of Resident Evil 0 with the effects playing, the game effects. They're not my effects. I didn't make them. I can't keep featuring that. That's a whole topic of conversation in and of itself. But I use it to test. I want this music, this audio, my audio in indie games that have effects. Right? I did this extensively with Creatures of War. I'd get Creatures of War gameplay with effects only, no music, just the effects. And that's how I would get context for this thing. That's how I practiced this over the last year and a half. Context. So what's the purpose of this music? Is to accentuate and envelop the player, accentuate the visuals and the effects and the gameplay, and provide atmosphere that everything fits together. Everything has a purpose and everything fits together for a reason. So that's the purpose of this music. Let's listen to the mix on its own. It's pretty strong. It's hitting at -3. So you see, the more times I did this, the better it got. That's probably, I hope that's a takeaway in this video, is the more you do something, the better you're going to get. The more you record when you do a recording session, the better audio you're going to get. The longer you record each idea, the more audio you're going to harvest that you can selectively use. So that's one of the takeaways here. Let's bring this video full circle and go back to our Pale Farmstead session, and let's just listen to it again with the effects on, just like we did with that Resident Evil 2 remake. Let's do that just for experimentation here. So you can see it. The music is doing its job. Like, the effects are popping out. They're standing out. The music's not in the way. It's not melodic, so it's not. You know, it's survival. It's non-intrusive survival horror is what it is. So I hope this video has been helpful. It's provided some insight into my process. I hope it's given you ideas of how you can approach your own survival horror music. There are so many different avenues of survival horror music. There's this non-intrusive canvas approach. There's full-on harmonic and melodic approach. There's the save room with that beautiful atmosphere and melody and harmony. There's this where it's just textured atmosphere. And there's a lot of other things that, you know, we're going to probably spend our whole careers in life trying to figure out and exploring, right? I've done this multiple times and gotten multiple results, and that's how we get better. So I want to encourage you to record music, record synthesizers, use different combinations of sounds to create a larger whole. Find purpose in this music, right? Listening to the music on its own is maybe not that exciting, but when it goes into the game and it plays its role, it fills out in its role as non-intrusive. It adds to the gameplay, the visuals, the effects, the combat. It can ride through multiple states of gameplay, and that's what I've been doing. That's a large part of what I've been doing, and learning from that, and then building off of that and adding harmony and melody, and and this has nothing to do with JRPG music, but I've taken these sensibilities into the JRPG music. I love adding real world atmospheres into my music. Like I said, I think it's trying to emulate tape or saturation somehow. Maybe it's a little annoying sometimes, but maybe it's not appropriate as well. But I like it, and I've been putting it in there. And when I give this music to game developers, I give it to them without it, right? That's the thing, is give them options, right? Here's what it can be, but here's all the options. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. Thank you for being here. If you've liked what you've seen in this video and found it useful, please consider subscribing. Leave a comment down below if you want to see more of this. If you have questions about how or why I did this, if you're trying to do it yourself and you've learned something here but you need help, let me know. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.